Why the sudden departure?
Excuse me.
Got work to do.
Why is my glasses? You can see out of like. Why did it
It's
flip?
called a reflection.
Yeah,
Why is
probably
it?
because they're clean. If they weren't very clean, then you wouldn't have a very good reflection in it.
Oh, there we go. Now I need
It's
a.
still there. It's just small. You're just not. And if you make contact with it, so if the light passes through your glasses, it's gonna have a reflection.
I don't
Yeah.
think
If
this
you.
is going.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I just
Yeah, it's
checked.
not going.
Mudrabbit
Email sucks.
email sucks.
Well, it sucks for it sucks for sharing large files unless you can just share me the page where I could find it.
It's not a page. It's on
No,
my
I know it's
phone.
your video. I know.
Yeah.
That's the hard part about it. Unless it's uploaded somewhere where it's got a link, it's kind of hard.
Oh well, you'll probably get it next week.
Damn you, AOL.
Lately, iCloud's been really weird too. I think Elon's doing something.
What? I can't hear you. What?
I said
She
I
thinks
think Elon has been doing something because iCloud has been really weird.
Elon Musk has been doing something.
I think he's done something with the satellites and with how we communicate because
Because
I think he's bypassed a few things. Because he's got Starlink out there to people who can't reach internet and have no Wi-Fi. My girlfriend up in Georgia has Starlink.
I'm wondering if a lot of these services are going to start pulling down their stuff because they realize that there's going to be alternatives that are way more
They're going to
affordable.
have to because none of our internet, absolutely none of our internet comes from a satellite. It comes from underground cables. It always has. And they planned that for a long time because they can control underground cables. They can cut them, which is evidenced by what they did to Ukraine to Russia or whatever, when they cut that pipeline. Doesn't matter how deep they are under the ocean. They can cut it. They can control it. They don't like Starlink because it's a satellite and nobody can block it.
Yeah, satellites only cover cellular service, right?
No, you get your internet, your Wi-Fi through Starlink. She gets everything through Starlink.
No.
TV.
Well, yeah, I'm saying you can
Yeah.
get it through Starlink. That's another option now. But
Yeah.
prior to Starlink, everybody was using satellites for cellular devices, and everything else was hardwired.
No, that
right?
was the lie. That was the lie. It's all through the underground cables and
So
underwater cables.
how is the um because because the signal is being released from a tower on the ground?
No, it comes through. I don't know how they push it out, but I know it's cable. It's always been on cable.
Because
And then
I don't
the
know if
only
there's I don't know if there's waves like going all over of like 5G and stuff like that. People always talk about it, but I don't think we have direct evidence of it, except when people use cell phones, where I do think
yeah,
things are reflecting back.
my phone constantly says 5G. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But your Wi-Fi, from your router, your Comcast, your Xfinity, all that
Yeah,
stuff
but
is
that's
underground
localized.
cable.
But that's yeah, that's underground cable and it's localized. Like I can understand you having a router
Correct.
box that puts off a wireless signal for
Right.
you locally, but that's all hardwired. That's all like
Right,
you
but your
said,
unlimited
underground.
data would be the 5G. But we don't know that it's not a satellite, the 5G. It's not a satellite. It's some sort of radiation. I'm not sure exactly how he explained it because I'm not a scientist, but none of it is satellite.
Interesting.
The only satellite you get is that satellite TV when you get a dish because that's what pixelates.
Is that what they used to do with old TV though?
No, old TV was radio signal.
They weren't bouncing it off a satellite and reflecting it back, and
No, we didn't
because
have that many satellites up there when I was a kid. You had a local
because
TV station.
that was such a proposed lie that there was even films that had the images backwards because
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't getting unscrambled. Like I think was it Blast from the Past or whatever, Blast to the Past with Brendan Fraser and
Okay, yeah.
something Walker. I can't remember his name. He was the
I
dad.
know who you mean. Yeah. No, it's what they had was that we had radio towers.
Walken. Sorry, Walken.
Christopher Walken. We had radio towers in all the major cities, and you got your TV signal from them. And it was over the airwaves, but it was not from a satellite, it was radio signal.
Like that makes more sense to me because like when I think of like the tower that's at Montauk, have you
Mm-hmm.
seen the Montauk Tower? Like that thing seems like it's putting out power to me. Like it's putting out a signal, and a lot of people
Yeah.
report that it's still active. Like they can feel vibrations coming from underneath it.
Well, remember when I came into the chat a couple years ago and said it's happening?
What?
I came into the chat and I said it's happening, and you said no, it's not happening yet. And somebody else, I forget who it was in the chat, said nothing's happening. Yeah, it was happening. There was a radio tower. It was supposed to be an observatory, but they were sending or receiving communications out of it, and I forget if it was the Marines or the Secret Service. They had to go in and shut it down. So somebody was doing something.
What was happening from it?
They just said they kept a lot of it top secret, so we don't know the full story, but there was communications going in and out of there. And it was this huge tower type structure. So I think those towers, some of them are still active.
Oh,
I think most of them are. And I think they're being used, just not for us, because I remember when we switched from those to the digital stuff, we lost the ability to just turn on the TV with a regular antenna, or with the newer TVs, no antenna at all, and get several stations, CBS, NBC, ABC. Now you need a special, with these televisions, you need to have one of those special flat antennas or one of those little ones that you put out on the porch to get anything local.
Well, and because I think you can still get local stuff.
Yeah, but you have to have a special antenna.
I have a digital antenna where it can get stuff, but it's weird.
Yeah, we have an antenna.
That has to be from Wi-Fi, right?
No, it's from something out there, because it's not coming through my Wi-Fi. The Roku comes through my Wi-Fi. We have an antenna just to get the local stations. We have an antenna running from the TV out the window. The antenna, I forget the name of it. They're about 4 inches tall. And it's out on the porch, and it picks up the local radio, the local TV stations. The towers that are still working?
Yeah.
But you can't get those anymore with a regular TV. You have to get a special antenna to get those. Otherwise, you have to pay cable to get them. This happened because they warned us for about a year and a half that the TV stations are going to switch over. The ones in your locality are going to shut down, yada, yada, yada. If you still want to get them, you have to get this special antenna. And they sent coupons out to all the households that you could get it for free for a limited time from your local cable station. Go down there and get this antenna. But that antenna up there doesn't work down here. So when I came back down here, I was on Roku and I didn't get any local TV. Not that I cared, but my partner kept saying, you got to have local TV. And he got me this antenna. And it's about 10 inches by 10 inches, a flat black square. And you put it on the wall outside. And the one he has on this TV is the little one, the little 4-inch one. But without that, you don't get local TV.
Actually, so I'm like deep diving into something. What year did you just say that happened? What year? You said early 90s?
I'm trying to remember. Let me put it with something. When it changed over, I was living in North Carolina in my house. So that had to be, what year did I buy my house? 2014, 2013, somewhere around that area.
What do you think of the satellite the satellite dish array system in New Mexico.
That might be. What is it for? Satellite TV, or is it for NASA?
It's listed as the National Radio Astronomy Observatory.
Oh, okay. They're listening for radio waves from outer space.
And there are a bunch of huge ones that are all synchronized up together.
Yeah, I know which one you mean. They've also got the giant one. It's not working anymore. The Arecibo
When do you
in Puerto
think
Rico.
it opened? When do you think the National Radio Astronomy Observatory opened?
Oh God, I was young when that happened.
No, you weren't.
I wasn't.
No, these are all really new satellites.
Was it in the last 20 years? 20 years ago?
In the last 40.
40 years ago?
No, duh, I'm losing my mind. It was 9 years before I was born.
What year was that?
I was born in the 80s.
I was young in the 80s.
You were young in the 80s? I thought you were thinking like young. Okay. So yeah, no, it was born started and launched. They said launched was the actual like terminology, but
I was young.
1980.
I am going to be 69 this month. I still don't feel like it.
I'm gonna say you don't sound it.
I don't sound it either. I don't feel like it, and I haven't slowed down. God, I hope it stays like this.
Right.
69,
dude.
Yeah, 69.
What's going on,
dude.
Terry?
Got the number. Hey, Terry. Yeah. But I already got my birthday present.
In the 1960s, scientists conceived the idea of a large radio dish array. In 1972, Congress approved funding for the VLA in August. In 1973, construction started in April. In 1975, the first antenna was put in place in September. In 1980, the VLA was formally inaugurated.
Okay, in the 70s.
And in 1980s, the VLA is the most powerful radio telescope in the world.
Okay, in 1973, I was 16 years old and I got married. I was 3 months away. At 16, wow. I was 3 months away from my 17th birthday.
Oh, and there's 27. There's 27 satellite dishes in the constellation of it.
In the 70s, I was in my teens in the early 70s. I turned 20 in 76, the bicentennial year.
Yeah, man, I haven't seen what's it called? I haven't watched Bill and Ted in a while. Good reference, Terry.
Oh, I like that movie, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the 69, dude.
Yeah. Shaka, bro. I'm gonna be that. God, the cake would set a fire. Now
What's the name of those in the ground? They're not set. I don't know if you'd call them satellite dishes that are in Mexico that they featured in Arrival with everybody's favorite Charlie Sheen.
You mean the satellite dishes that are like in the ground?
Yeah. Isn't that in Mexico?
No, it's Arecibo. That's in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico? Arecibo?
Arecibo. But it's not functional anymore. I mean, if you get recent pictures of it, there's holes in it and it's all falling apart. The last picture I saw of it.
Arecibo Observatory.
Arecibo.
I found it.
Yeah.
Arecibo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when I just remember seeing it in Arrival, I think it was.
Yeah, they used it in a Bond movie too. One of the James
it was so
Bond
cool
movies.
looking. It was just cool because they did in an Arrival. It's got Charlie Sheen breaking into the base, and they have aliens working with humans underneath that place in Puerto Rico or whatever. I was like, I think they almost pitched it like it was in Mexico in the movie.
They did.
Maybe that's why it's in my head.
Yeah, they did pitch it, and they changed the scenery to reflect that because Puerto Rico doesn't look like that.
Yeah,
But
no,
the
because I think they
close-up
shot it. They
shots,
might have even shot it in Mexico and then
right?
just did Arecibo shots above
Exactly,
ground or whatever.
exactly.
That's what Terry was
Because
just saying.
when
Arecibo is
Arecibo,
dismantled now. It was taken down right during the CV era.
okay, yeah, because they featured it in a James Bond movie, and they featured it in that other movie.
Yeah, I just remember seeing. I'm like, wow, that is such a cool. When we were talking
Okay,
about big radio waves and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay.
yeah.
I bet that was putting out some power back in the day.
You know what? That was down in the islands, and I've lived in the islands, and power is not consistent in the islands at all. At all. That's probably why they just let it go into ruin, because you can't depend on the power company down there. We don't have nuclear.
Well, I wonder if the material that they used made a difference, or because I feel
No,
like
it's
if they had it and because of its size, other people would have utilized it and kept it going. You know what I
no.
mean? Just so they didn't have to build one.
They would have to come in and build a facility to power it because, and I'll give you an example. I lived on St. Thomas. The sub base is where it's a closed sub base, and this is where they have WAPA, Water and Power Authority. They have 9 steam turbines that run 3 main islands and some of the smaller outer islands. And they all run on steam with these ball bearings that are bigger than that rock I showed you. They're about the size, a little smaller than a soccer ball. And those ball bearings have to be oiled several times a day so they don't seize up, because when they seize up, one power station goes down and it causes a chain reaction across the other 9. And before you know it, all the islands are dark. You can't get water unless you have a bucket because you can't pump from your cistern. You don't have fans to keep the mosquitoes and the termites out of your house. So this is a problem you live with in the islands, and it's just as bad in Puerto Rico because they're not allowed to have nuclear power down there because nobody pays attention to their job. Everything is tomorrow mi son, and these people can't be trusted with nuclear. So there's no nuclear down there. There's no consistent power because they can't take care of the stations. The desalination plant was another big one. Israel had to come in and run it because our guys running it ruined it. So yeah, in the islands, you deal with stuff like that because these people aren't ready for the bigger things. When you go to a place like that, you step back 25, 30 years.
Oh, I can go full screen. Okay. Um. Well, and I feel like all of these things that people are taking a picture. I mean, I guess it's a picture in time with all these antennas and all these those things that we're actually like viewing. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I still feel like these things still had to have a lot of power. I mean, and like if I think of something like the observatory, what's the observatory that they have in South America? That's I think it's owned by the Catholic Church. A lot of people always rent and use it because depending on the location of the observatory, they'd want to keep it open because it's great for certain viewing things at certain times
Yeah,
of the year, and it's
and
like,
certain points of the globe.
yeah, exactly. There's
Um,
always a necessity for it somewhere.
well, I know that the one the Vatican has, and I'm not sure where it is,
Is
if
that the
it's in
one
the
that's named like
Vatican.
Lucifer or
Yeah,
Satan or something?
that's the one that's called Lucifer.
That was always so punny. I was like, I know they're doing something with that.
You know, it's funny once your eyes are opened and you start learning things, especially since this letter came up, Q. I went to France. This was before all of this. And I went to the cathedral at Auch. That's where all this ancient artwork is, this carvings. And that's where the Mary with the Jesus is in her lap. It's huge. It's all in white marble. But when you walk in those doors, to your left, there's a devil. And in some of these
Isn't he
old,
sitting on a throne too?
he
Don't
wasn't
they?
sitting on a throne. I think he was standing on a sphere, but he wasn't very big. He was only about maybe 3 feet tall, but it's a statue, and he's an ugly little bugger of the devil on the left when you walk into the church. And a lot of the cathedrals over there, I went to the one in Mosaic. They have these little devils by the entrances. I don't know what that's all about, but it was very interesting.
I feel like it could ward off
No.
things.
What we have learned about the Vatican since then makes more sense now. Didn't make any sense to me then.
Yeah, if you break down the literal context of Vatican, it gets kind of deep.
Yeah,
Well,
it does.
and I've always felt this way about the Bible in general. In general, I think history. I mean, and we know history is written by the winners, so it's easy to tell how a story would go one way, and why to this day we would consider serpents to be a bad thing.
Yeah, I think what they did was they took out books like the Book of Thomas and Enoch, and all the ones that would give us the secrets, and then what was left they augmented. Who was it recently? Biglio, I think his name is Mauro Biglio. He's featured on The Fifth Kind sometimes. I forget who it was that told me that Revelations was added to the Bible.
Yeah.
By the people that wanted to control us.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Mauro Biglio, I think his last name is. Anyway, he does that. He works in the Vatican, going through all these old manuscripts, and he gives you histories and he gives you explanations. And some of his explanations of the Bible.
Wasn't Genesis the coming, or was it Revelations?
No, Genesis is the genetic line.
Oh, okay.
But he gives these really interesting tutorials. He has a translator because he speaks Italian, and explains things in the Bible that blow your mind because you never really are taught that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, well, I was looking at a lot of older texts, and I was actually, because I was looking into the mud flood, into Taria, and I was trying to disprove it in my head and do all these other things. Then I stumbled across a bunch of really interesting things with the Bible, and one of them was that they were saying that Revelations had already happened, like the end times had already happened. Again, they were regularly communicating like that, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Like they had already described the horsemen that had came in from the east that looked like exactly how it was described in the Bible, and they know exactly where they came from and who they actually were. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, how did they already have an end time? Like,
and that was when, the turn of the century?
It would have been the 1200, 1300.
Oh, that far back. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we've been through a couple of cycles in the history that we know about. I think, and what I have observed personally is that all the things that have been happening in Revelation, the wars, the rumors of wars, the famines, the disease, all of that has been happening since my lifetime began. It hasn't been an overnight process. It's been a very slow, gradual process. And now we're reaching the culmination because things are starting to speed up.
Ooh, I want to play this since I got it up. This is he said the existence. Terry said the existence of pulsars, fast spinning stars, came from the Arecibo radio antenna, the one we were just talking about. And I pulled up the sound, and
that's really cool. That's so cool. Oh, I've heard this one.
I wonder if you checked the frequencies on them or the beats per minute, what it would correlate to.
That'd be
Because
interesting.
I wonder, because I mean, I bet there's like destructive vibrations. You know what I mean? That like,
Okay, I'll tell you something interesting. When I was with the Cassiopean group, the QFS,
yeah,
um, there was study on these things, and there was a nebula that was within sight of our telescopes that a star had exploded in, or something. I think it was a pulsar or something had exploded, and the energy was radiating outward. And the channeled information was saying that this was the energy that when it reached Earth was going to help with people waking up. It's going to cause things to happen, you know, create chaos, which we see happening all around us. And at the time, they said estimated time was about 20 years, give or take. Well, it's been about 25 years now. And I'm looking around me and people are rapidly waking up and things are in chaos and things are changing, you know. And the only reason I mentioned that was because it had something to do with the energy we get from these stars when they explode. They do affect us. And that has, I think, a lot to do with the frequency.
I mean, I think it just has to come down to like just nature and chemical
That
makeup
is
of things.
nature.
That's
Yeah,
what I mean. It's like we're stardust. Like how is it not possible that we could absorb some of that energy if energy can't be
exactly.
destroyed? If energy can't be
Exactly.
destroyed, where's it going?
Yeah, it feeds us. And if we are stardust with those explosions, when those, it's like throwing a pebble in a pond. When those rings reach us, it affects us.
Well, it's like it's the same thing that otherwise, how does photosynthesis make any sense?
Yeah, right?
Like, I mean, even plants are made from stardust, just like we are.
And
All
plants
of this.
respond. Plants have a rudimentary sense of emotion because if you play music for them or if you treat them kindly, they grow beautifully. But if you treat them badly and play music at the wrong frequency, or you just have one of those households where it's just a bunch of arguments and noise, they don't grow very well.
So I bet frequency is one thing, but I bet if you did positive like so if you did positive tone
Mm-hmm.
insults, it wouldn't I don't think it would have a negative effect. I think the only thing it would be because you'd just be feeding them, it would be an energy source. I
Okay,
think tones would make a difference.
until I got my what was his name? Hashimoto, I think his name is. Until I got in this house, we got a reverse osmosis system, so I no longer have to fill bottles. But
Okay.
for years, for God, since 2012, no, since before that, I've been filling bottles of osmotic water or distilled water because we don't drink fluoridated. We don't drink the stuff from the tap. And on my bottles, I have written things like gratitude, love, happiness, gratefulness, you know, things like that. I've written on these 1 gallon bottles because of his experiment. What he did was he took these drops of water, and on one he had positive things, positive words, said positive things to it, and on another one he had negative words, hateful things were said to it, and it was treated in a negative fashion. And when you looked at the crystals in the water under a microscope, you could see the difference. The ones where he was positive to had a beautiful glow and were shaped and were, you know, all in perfect form. And the ones that were in the other one came up brown and broken and didn't look healthy at all to be drinking. So there's something to be said for even the words, because that's your intent. And when you write that word on that bottle, you put your intent in that bottle and it affects the water you put in it.
How do you separate, I don't know, affirmations or positive thinking from actual results
I'm not
or the placebo effect in general? Because it'd be easy for like there's